All right, guys, see there's a huge gap between your heading and your title, so we're going to want to make sure that when you go back and edit this, that you close that gap. There shouldn't be any spaces, not even between the title and the first paragraph. Also, keep in mind that English is going to be capitalized there, so make sure that we capitalize that. And we don't need to say the word class if you don't want to. And otherwise, looks like the last thing we need to do is insert a page number. You can do that by going here, insert, header and page number, and then choose page number. Choose the first option and then type in your last names there. In addition, you do not need to bold your title. And make sure you eliminate the word outline in your title. You don't need to include that. Always indent the first line of each paragraph. If a young person has fallen in love with someone, I think is what you meant to say, not one. We have a conjunction and two independent clauses. Well, just kidding. If a young person has fallen in love with someone is not a... So never mind that last part. No comma needed. Don't start sentences with so. It creates sort of a more informal tone. And then always italicize play titles. So whenever you refer to the title Romeo and Juliet, make sure you're italicizing. Let's enhance our diction rather than saying a lot. Let's think of something stronger to say that we could use instead. In addition, avoid using you. Don't address the reader directly. So rephrase that sentence there to avoid saying you. Same thing for here as well. Sometimes it feels a little bit forced with making the connection between the play and the idea of gender identity here. Somehow combine sentences or shorten your background and context to make it feel a little bit more natural. Let's make sure we're closing the gaps between paragraphs. And make sure you indent as well. Okay, let's rephrase this first topic sentence. It's a little awkward sounding. Implying anger and death into our lives is more potent in men than women? What do you mean implying? That I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Forget and forgive, is that something that we've been focusing on with gender identity? This topic sentence is all over the place. We need to rephrase that. A while into this scene is also a little bit awkward. Find a different word there. Make sure Lady Capulet is a proper noun, so capitalize Lady Capulet. Make sure that your punctuation is correct. Remember, we divide lines not by dashes, but by forward slash. This is a great aside because it shows us here, that's kind of awkward sounding. I would say the aside demonstrates how Juliet knows. So let's rephrase that. I'm not sure if I would use those adjectives to describe Romeo. Find different adjectives to describe him. I'm not sure that those are accurate. Make sure you spell Tybalt correctly, and if you're showing possession, always use an apostrophe. So we have a conjunction and two independent clauses. We need a comma before and. This is a epithet. Make sure we spell epithet correctly. And make sure we're using the correct pronoun ahead of it. Make sure it's an epithet. If it's capitalized in the text, capitalize it within your commentary. So we need to capitalize Lady Wisdom. Maybe add a comma somewhere to slow down. To slow the sentence down. This connection here, I'm not quite sure. Do you mean Lady Capulet here? I'm not quite sure who you're referring to because that doesn't make sense in context of Lord Capulet. I would eliminate this last sentence. It's unnecessary and a little bit superfluous. Make sure that we're formatting MLA style, so get rid of all the stuff that shows that it's an outline. Let's make sure we're adding a transition between paragraphs. Whew, that is a run-on sentence. We need to break this up into multiple sentences and add commas throughout to slow it down. And I'm not even sure it makes total sense. I don't even know. Grief is a promising part of life? A promising part of life? What do you... No. Promising means like exciting, hopeful. I don't think that's what you meant there. And it represents true respect and to each other and both masculine... Ooh, this sentence is a mess. It needs to be completely redone. We need to also make sure that we're embedding our evidence. Try to avoid starting sentences with and. Or you can combine these two sentences into one. And we need to add commentary to connect to thesis. We also need a transition between chunks and embed your evidence. Also notice you're using commas here. You want to put a space between the number and the title and do periods between the scene number and the line number. Capitalize the J in Juliet. She's a proper noun. I'm not quite seeing the connection between masculinity and the foreshadowing. Make this connection more clear. And then the phrasing of the concluding sentence needs to be cleaned up. Right now it just feels awkward. All right, male character. Good, make sure we're adding a transition, but that's a stronger topic sentence. And make sure we're embedding our evidence. Oops. Connect the iambic pentameter back to your thesis. Right now it just explains the meaning of the device. Connect it back to your thesis. Transition as well as add embedding. Make sure there's always a space between the citation and your end quotation mark. The phrasing here could be more sophisticated. Do we need to mean males and females? Your conclusion's a little lengthy and can be shortened, and some of the relevance feels overdone, superfluous. So let's tighten this up a little bit. All right, we've got a lot of work to do.